Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. All right, hello, Pat Mills. Tell my audience about your movie, The Retreat.
The Retreat is about two women who are in a relationship, Renee and Valerie, and they go up to celebrate a friend's wedding planning retreat. And then they get there and their friends are nowhere to be found, and they find themselves being hunted by right-wing extremists. And it's a survival movie about two queer women who have to fight back and rely on each other to survive.
Yes, definitely. I got some Hostel vibes in this movie. Is that fair to say?
Totally. Yeah. Somebody else said that as well. Definitely. It's about like the fear of an unknown environment.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about working with your cast on this shoot.
Yeah, the leads were Sarah Allen and Tommy Amber Peary, and they gave 200% to their roles. They are fantastic in the film. They were really open, and it was a very challenging shoot. So we really put them through everything that you can imagine. It was lots of physical draining performances, and everything really comes across on screen very authentically, because I think that it wasn't the most comfortable shoot. So yeah, I really enjoyed working on this film. Yeah, we shot it pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So at least we didn't have that to battle up against, but we definitely battled the weather while we shot, definitely.
Yeah, tell me about the community where you shot this movie.
We shot this in Orangeville, Ontario, which is about an hour north of Toronto.
Yeah.
So the weather actually is very, very different just north of Toronto. And we shot this in October, and it ended up snowing halfway through the shoot, which was a little early than we were expecting. So we had to adjust accordingly. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I've been there before. I went there 2009.
Oh, where are you located?
I'm in Ottawa, Ontario.
Oh, great. I'm from Ottawa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. What high school did you go to?
Well, I went to high school here, but I did go to Glebe for 1 year. Yeah. What about you?
I went to Ashbury, then Immaculata.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. So, what was it like reading the script for the first time?
Well, I was involved earlier in the development, so I was able to talk with Allison, the writer, about characters and plot before I read the first draft. But the thing that I was really drawn to in the story is the fact that these two women who are a couple don't turn on one another, and they really fight together. Mm-hmm. And they have to rely on each other to survive rather than turning on one another, which you see a lot in films. And I just like that, I was trying to do research on like queer slashers or queer horror films. And, when we made this, there weren't that many that were out there. Yeah. There's a shift happening right now, but it just felt really fresh, even though it was like a basic, simple survival film. But the fact that two queer women were at the front and center of it was really attractive to me.
Yeah, you sort of wonder why it took so long, right? Have there been film critics who criticize the sexuality scene in the movie?
I haven't read any yet, so hopefully not. But I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that, unless they're right wing or something.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So prejudice is a scary thing for sure. But what are some of your favorite horror films of all time?
Probably my favorite horror film is The Shining. I also love like really bad slashers from the 80s, like Friday the 13th and all of their sequels. I also love Return of the Living Dead because I love a bit of comedy thrown in and like over the top gore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And recently I really liked Hereditary.
Oh.
And Session 9. There are a lot. Like I love a lot of genre films, which is surprising to a lot of people, but
there are a lot of good horror movies for people who want to go down that hallway. You can find a lot of good stuff for sure, especially like over time you can get really into it. You can think like, oh, this isn't for me, or maybe this is just all tawdry, but after a while you can find some really good stuff.
Definitely, definitely.
What are some of the most important elements of horror?
I think the moments of silence are really important.
Hmm.
I find that sometimes people go right into the gore, go right into the action, but I've always loved the beginning of horror films where there's a sense of dread, but you don't know what it is yet. So for me, creatively, I always really wanted to marinate in those moments where you don't know what's going to happen rather than the moments of gore.
Aha.
And I also really like the idea of, things are more horrific when you don't see them.
Mhm.
A lot of the violence in the film, some of it's in your face, but a lot of it's implied, which I think that sometimes your imagination makes up a more gruesome image than what you see on screen.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your short films.
My short films.
Yeah.
My short films are comedic for the most part. I did a film called Babysitting Andy about like a kid and her uncle. I did one called Five Dysfunctional People in a Car, which was a comedy set in a car told in voiceover. But I never actually explored the horror genre in the short film, and maybe I'll do that because it is fun doing something totally different. And for me, like The Retreat it's vastly different from my other features, my short films. And that's what really, again, that was another thing that really drew me to it because it was just so different tonally than anything that I'd ever done before.
Does it ever get nauseating to work on horror, to be subjected to this, horrific images all the time?
It is. Shooting it was a challenge just because it's intense. Like the performances are intense and the environments are claustrophobic. And that's not just for the people on screen, but it's like we were shooting in a garage and we were like huddled in the corner of a garage at the monitor. So it's definitely challenging because you're shooting overnight. So there's a lot of darkness. You become nocturnal. You can't sleep when you have to readjust to a schedule. So, you're taking sleeping pills to fall asleep during the day to then stay up all night.
Oh, no.
You've got blood on set. So it's definitely a challenge, but one that, ultimately it was worth its while for sure.
Groovy. Pat, thanks for your time. Do you have a final thought about The Retreat you would like to end this interview on?
A final thought is I hope people walk away thinking it was a good movie. It's something that I just hope people enjoy it and really enjoy the characters.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thanks, Michael.